The 60s was a changing and evolving time for music. There is such an array and diverse selection of music from so many innovative bands and artists of that time. When I think of bands from the 60s, there's always one group that comes to my mind. I'm not going to introduce them though. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and share a little bit about what they do.
Right now we'd like to show you how the Beach Boys go about making a record. We start with Denny Wilson on the drums. Followed by Al Jardine on rhythm guitar. Helped out by Carl lead guitar Wilson. And filled out instrumentally by our leader Brian Wilson on the bass. When we're ready to sing, we step up the microphones and it comes out something like this.
The Beach Boys, one of the most influential and iconic bands from the 60s. Anyone can recognize their distinct sound and style. They defined the classic surf rock genre and created the true Californian sound. There's no other band like the Beach Boys.
The Beach Boys had a colorful and grand catalog of songs. My all-time favorite Beach Boys song is Don't Worry Baby. This is the original single for the song, released in 1964. It's paired with I Get Around, which was the Beach Boys' first #1 hit. Can you believe that these two songs were released on a 45 together? This is probably one of the greatest singles ever released in the history of music. The Beach Boys weren't just catching a wave, they were catching a tsunami with this single. They definitely gave the British invasion a run for their money on this one.
Let's take a quick look at this sleeve. It's a humble picture sleeve released by Capitol Records. You got all the Beach Boys climbing up some stairs. Probably a metaphor for them climbing up to #1 with this single. I wonder where this photo was taken. I looked online and couldn't find any answers. On the back, you have a very nice letter from the Beach Boys. To all of our friends, we have been the Beach Boys for 3 years now, and we still find that every day is a new and exciting experience. We have made so many friends where we have traveled, and you may be one of them. Thanks for all you have done for us. If it weren't for people like you, there would be no people like us. Yours always, the Beach Boys. I like how each member gave their own regards. Carl Wilson says, good luck. Dennis Wilson says, see you around. Al Jardine says, best wishes. Mike Love says hi, and Brian Wilson says hi.
Aw, well tell them I said hi back.
And of course, with every band and artist, there comes a fan club. At the bottom, you have the information on how to join. I'm gonna be honest here. If I was around at the time of this release, I probably would have joined a bunch of these. And here's the single. I love these 45 RPM singles. They have a lot of charm, and I love the idea of owning the individual song. As it states on the label, Don't Worry Baby was written by Brian Wilson and Roger Christian. Roger Christian was a radio personality on KFWB at the time. He was also a lyricist who often collaborated with Wilson. Wilson composed the music, while Christian wrote the lyrics. The origin of Don't Worry Baby traces back to one source and one of Brian Wilson's biggest inspirations. This song was written as a direct response to the 1963 hit Be My Baby by the Ronettes. Brian Wilson was a huge fan of this song. Apparently he was obsessed with it. He's quoted by calling it the greatest pop song ever written. He wanted to create a follow-up to the song, so he and Roger Christian got to work. By this time, Christian already wrote a good number of songs for the Beach Boys, such as Shutdown, Little Deuce Coupe, Spirit of America, and Ballad of Old Betsy, just to name a few. The running theme in each one of those songs is that they're all about cars, and that's no different for Don't Worry Baby. It took them 2 days to write the entire song. The lyrics tell the story of a man who bragged about his car and committed to a drag race. He feels guilty of getting himself involved and is worried about how it will turn out for him. He confesses his distress about the situation to his girlfriend, but she comforts him with the words, There's some depth to this song, and even though it revolves around a situation with cars and racing, there's a very soft and innocent side the song captures that's very endearing. The expression of confessing one's vulnerabilities, fears, and feelings of worry to the person you love and not knowing how they'll react is a daunting situation. But when that person is sympathetic and responds by giving love, support, and comfort, that's powerful. The actual story of the writing process for Don't Worry Baby is a little up in the air and discombobulating. There's many stories from different sources on how this song was written. One source says Wilson recalls meeting up with Roger Christian, who presented the lyrics to Wilson, and then he went home to write the song in only an hour and a half. Another source says Roger Christian wrote the lyrics based on Brian Wilson's stage fright and romantic insecurities. And another source says the song is a reference to the 1955 film Rebel Without a Cause. It's really strange how there's so many different stories behind the song's writing process. There's one particular story I see floating around on the web that originated from the 1991 memoir called Wouldn't It Be Nice? My Own Story by Brian Wilson and celebrity journalist Todd Gold. The memoir talks about how the song title was adopted when Wilson listened to Be My Baby for the first time with his girlfriend, Marilyn Rovell, who eventually became Wilson's first wife. After hearing Be My Baby, Wilson wondered if he could write a song like that, and Marilyn responded with, Don't Worry Baby. He called Roger Christian about making the song and they met up together and worked on it. While writing, Wilson remembered Marilyn's words. While the story is interesting, I'm inclined to say it's not completely true because the memoir has been discredited. Additionally, the memoir states how Wilson wanted the Ronettes to sing the song but changed his mind after discussing it with Roger Christian. This may be partially true, but other sources say it played out differently. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but critics question the legitimacy of the book, and it even sparked a bunch of defamation lawsuits from people who were associated with Wilson. It's also been said that Wilson had very little involvement in the making of the memoir. So it may be safe to say that's not actually what happened. If you're still on the fence about this memoir, you can always look at its top Amazon reviews. In more recent years, there's a 2009 interview with Brian Wilson from American Songwriter magazine where he touches upon the writing process for the song. I wrote that with Roger Christian and it took me 2 days to write it. I started out with the verse idea and then wrote the chorus. It was a very simple and beautiful sound. It's a really heart and soul song. I really did feel that in my heart. Some say it's about a car and others say it's about a girl. Who's right? It's both. It's about a car and a woman. Originally, Wilson wrote this song with the intention of the Ronettes singing it. Wilson offered it to them, but their producer Phil Spector rejected it. There's one more source I want to share that actually quotes Ronnie Spector during a 1994 concert where she recalls when her and Wilson met in 1963 and discussed Don't Worry Baby. It was the follow-up to Be My Baby, and Brian came running into Gold Star Studios and said, I wrote a great song for you, but of course my ex-husband, Phil Spector, didn't do the writing on it. So we didn't record it. There's even a charming video on YouTube where Ronnie meets with Wilson and she mentions this.
You wrote Don't Worry Baby right after Be My Baby.
Right.
And that song was supposed to be for me, and Phil didn't write it, so he said, no way. I said, but it's such a great fucking song. Don't Worry Baby would have been the perfect follow-up to Be My Baby.
So with Wilson getting rejected by Phil Spector, this only left one option for him: to record the song himself.
The recording session took place at United Western Recorders in Los Angeles on January 7, 1964. Brian Wilson usually had professional session players play the instruments for recording the studio versions of his songs. However, Brian wanted to create something truly genuine and authentic. For this particular song, all of the Beach Boys were at the helm and each member played their own instruments and provided backup vocals. The song was recorded in 2 8-hour sessions. Vocals and guitars were overdubbed on either January 8th or 9th, and take 12 was used as the master take. The end result was a beautiful and mellow song with captivating vocal harmonies. This song really captures the Beach Boys at their absolute best. You can definitely hear how Be My Baby influenced the song's sound. Both songs start with a similar drum intro. They also have a comparable tempo and beat. It even sounds like Wilson's lead vocal is matching the voice of Ronnie Spector. Both songs even share the same key of E major. But even though they have some similarities, they're both standalone songs. Be My Baby and Don't Worry Baby are both unique in their own way and are individual melodic works of art. Soon enough, Wilson's inspiration from the Ronettes paid off. Don't Worry Baby charted number 24 on the Billboard Hot 100, and numerous critics have ranked it as one of the greatest songs from the 60s and even of all time. The song had 2 releases. It was first released on their 5th album, Shut Down Volume 2, on March 2nd, 1964. And the second release would be the 45 single version paired with I Get Around on May 11th, 1964. There was one confusion I had about this specific release. Many sites say Don't Worry Baby is the B-side to I Get Around, but Don't Worry Baby is listed first on the sleeve. So wouldn't that make it the A-side? I thought my eyes were deceiving me at first. Even Discogs says Don't Worry Baby is the A-side and I Get Around is the B-side. There are many other pressings released later on and from other countries where I Get Around is listed as the A-side, but it's clearly stated on those. So what about this specific release? Well, I think I know the answer. This record is a double A-side single. Double A-sides are 45s that feature double-sided hits. Traditionally, 45s have an A-side and a B-side. The song that a band or artist wanted to become a hit or best-selling song would generally be the A-side, while a secondary song would become the B-side. There are some occasions where the B-side becomes a hit or is more popular than the A-side, but it's less common. In this case, the Beach Boys wanted both songs to become hits, so it's issued as a double A-sided single. Double A-sides were also more convenient for DJs to play. They would just flip the record. The Beach Boys weren't the only band that did double A-sides. The Beatles were also known for doing this with their songs. It makes sense why I Get Around would be considered the A-side. It was the newer song as it was recorded on April 2nd and 10th, whereas Don't Worry Baby was recorded about 3 months earlier on January 7th and had already been released. I also feel it's an appropriate pairing in that order because if you play I Get Around first, the lyrics tell the story of someone driving around and getting around in a car. And then Don't Worry Baby is like a continuation to that story where the person in the song gets involved in drag racing. I personally feel both songs complement each other. I Get Around and Don't Worry Baby are the perfect pairing. The legacy of Don't Worry Baby still lives on even till this day. It took the world by storm. So many artists covered this song. Just to name some, The Tokens, The Everly Brothers, Billy Joel, BJ Thomas, Tatsuro Yamashita, The Brook and the Bluff, Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, and none other than Ronnie Spector herself. That's right, the original source of inspiration for Brian Wilson to write Don't Worry Baby and who the song was originally intended for to sing, recorded a beautiful cover in 1999. That is incredible. There's a heartwarming video on YouTube where Brian Wilson is on a radio show and it's revealed to him Ronnie covered Don't Worry Baby. The radio host plays the song and Wilson listens to her version for the first time. It's truly an amazing sight to see Brian's reaction and see his original vision for the song come to reality. Please give it a watch. It will brighten your day.
Don't Worry Baby will always be a timeless classic. It's such a magical phenomenon how music can stand the test of time and live on for so many generations and inspire so many people. Don't Worry Baby is a perfect example of that. I want to share something. The day I started doing research for this video was on January 12th. Later that day, after doing some writing, I got the news that Ronnie Spector passed away. I couldn't believe it, that I was just reading about her and listening to her music. And it was such a shock for me. I learned that she passed away at 78 years old and she was battling cancer. I want to give my condolences to her family and her friends or anyone who's associated with her. Thank you, Ronnie, for everything you've done and for everything you've contributed to music. Music would not have been the same without you. And we wouldn't have songs like Don't Worry Baby. And I wouldn't be here talking about the story behind it. So thank you so much, Ronnie, for everything you've done. Ronnie's legacy will always live on. I dedicate this video to Ronnie Spector.